said, if you want to move my family from where we are to someplace else, is that what it will take to have peace? If you want everything that we have, it's yours. I am sick and tired of this. I have to have peace. I have to have you. And at that very moment, he spoke to me as clearly as I am speaking to you, and he said, Stephen, he said, I want all of you. Every ounce. All of you. And without giving it a thought, I said, you got it. I'm going to bed. And I went to bed, and I slept great that night, and I got up the next morning, and there was no note laying on my nightstand that said, well, here it is. Here's what I want you to do today. I knew no more the next morning than I did the night that I went to before I went to bed. But I knew this one thing. I knew that perhaps for the first time in my life, I was willing to give it all to him. Everything. I didn't understand what that meant. I still don't understand what that means. But I believed that he had brought me to that point in my life. And let me tell you what happened next. The next week I was over in High Point. I had a meeting with a complete stranger. Her name is Jeannie Bethel. I had had one phone conversation with Jeannie, but I'd never met her. So I walked into her showroom in High Point, introduced myself, and we visited for perhaps an hour and a half. But I was there on business. And I didn't walk into her showroom with a Bible in my hand or but a briefcase on my shoulder. And so we had a business conversation. And I left, and the purpose of that meeting never took place. We weren't able to consummate the deal on behalf of one of my clients. But we continued to correspond a little bit afterwards as a follow-up. But 6 months later, I went back to the showroom to say hello to Jeannie, to see how she was doing. And she wasn't there. I went by twice. Jeannie wasn't in the showroom. Excuse me. I guess that really comes through, doesn't it? But a few days later, I received an email from Jeannie, and I'd like to read this to you. It says, Dear Steve, I'm sorry I missed you at the showroom. I meant to call. The last time slipped away. But I wanted to look you straight in the eyes and tell you something in person. You might not know this, but just when I started to get to know you, God showed himself to me through you and helped to bring me back to a proper place in my life, and all blessings have followed. He is amazing, and you reflect his glory and his righteousness. Thank you, brother, Jeannie. Did I discover a purpose, a God purpose in my life through this short business with a stranger? I did. Did God choose to use me in some way because of my goodness? You know that's not the reason. But apparently that evening on the porch, God knew that I was available. And he chose to use me. But here's the most important thing that you need to grab hold of in what took place in Jeannie's showroom. When God does a God-sized thing, it is something that only God can do. And only God can get the credit. Don't miss this point. I can't tell you one thing that I said to Jeannie Bethel. One thing that happened in that showroom where she would have experienced God. It is unexplainable. I can take no credit for what happened. It was all God. Some way, somehow, God appeared to Jeannie. Maybe he put some hair on me, and a smile, and a heart for Christ. But I can take no credit for that. And her life has changed. We become good friends via email. How close are we to our God? Are we close enough? Mark Rachel's made a comment, shared something he had heard with me a week or so ago, and I thought it was so true. He said, Satan is not really worried about those of us that work 12 and 14 hours a day. And when in our spare time, every minute is devoted to me. Why? He doesn't need to. We don't have time for God. How close are we to our God? Are we close enough? The Bible gives us some very specific details as to God's purposes for our lives. The first thing, and I think one of the most important things, and this will be a little hint for you if you're not sure, if something is breaking your heart, and that same something is breaking God's heart, you've just discovered a God purpose for your life. Now, last Sunday, Pastor Jerry was up here, and those of us who were here could tell that his heart was broken for the loss of Tennessee to, who was it, Alabama? But I'm not sure that that was breaking God's heart. What's breaking your heart? It's also breaking God's heart. The Bible clearly says that we were created for His pleasure. Number one, we were created for God's pleasure. How much of what we do with our lives is for His pleasure? That we were made for His family. Every person in this building and every person outside this building, we were created for His family. The Jeannie Bethels of the world, the complete strangers, God's children, your purpose and mine. It says we were shaped to be more like Jesus each and every day. Can God shape